Now, GenAI's biggest challenge isn't the algorithm anymore. It is the people that are using it. Now, the real breakthrough lies in raising your workflow fluency, or not just the compute power. I'm very thrilled to welcome Amy McNee, and she's the Senior Vice President of Solution Architecture at Informatica, as we explore the human side of GenAI, data literacy, but also responsible AI adoption. Great to have you, Amy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
It's great to have you. And now let's dive in. Maybe you can explain a little bit more what the best way is to build AI and data skills across your team.
Building skills across the team. You know, one of the things that it always surprises me is when companies go into this massive sort of change or transformation, and something like enablement isn't funded or even set as a priority. And, you know, AI, it's been around for a long time, but even when we were talking about just data scientists, we were short on skills. And now we're talking about driving AI into really every aspect of what we do and how we work. And yet I'm not seeing kind of the focus on enablement programs or approaching that programmatically like I think we should. And it has to be an investment. You can't treat it like a second thought. So I think also too, when you think about building skills, too much of what we see today is companies are they have AI and they're looking for a problem to solve. And that's a challenge. We need to be very deliberate about how we apply AI and how we scale it. And when you actually have a plan and you know how you want to scale it, then you can prepare the right people at the right time. In fact, I was just having a conversation with my own team about something that we're going to be rolling out a new enablement program on. And some of it, we're going to see some need for it, you know, in the second quarter. We're going to see more need in the third and more need in the fourth quarter. And what we're doing is we're going to scale our enablement out in waves so that you give people kind of just in time enablement. So you can't have an AI program without having some kind of accompanying enablement to go with it at the right time for the right people.
You're talking about the people, the enablement, the skills that they need. So what kind of human barriers do you face that really are limiting the Gen AI adoption? And maybe as well, how does culture impact scaling AI? Maybe you can give your example and further elaborate on that.
Look, I think the biggest blockers right now to any kind of AI initiative is fear and some complacency. I think a lot of it is people are afraid that their jobs are going to be replaced. But I don't have that fear at all, because if you think about the jobs we had available 100 years ago, many of those don't even exist anymore, or they've really changed. We still have things like manufacturing, but our manufacturing facilities are completely different than what they were 100 years ago. So the jobs have changed. Technology has come into place. It's replaced some jobs, but it's created more. We have to have have a way to deal with this acceleration of change and to adapt our ways of working. So, you know, another example I've talked about in the past is if you think about just tech in general, and you know, you think about the early 90s when we really saw that shift away from mainframe, you know, to client server. We went from something like punch cards and COBOL, and we went to object-oriented languages, and then frameworks and APIs. And now we're moving into this world of agentic AI. So in the 90s, there was something like, 300,000 jobs. With all of that change, we didn't see that go down. It was like, I think there was somewhere between 300,000 and 500,000 programmers globally. In 2025, there's over 28 million programmers worldwide. So skills are going to change, but the way that we work is going to change. But it's going to also create new opportunities. So from a culture standpoint, having that culture of learning in your organization, a culture of enablement, that's going to be the biggest accelerator. If your employees feel like the company is going to put programs in place to help them adapt to that change, there's going to be less fear about just being replaced.
And talking about culture is often on one hand created by the people, but on the other hand, guided by the leaders. So if we talk about leaders, how can leaders shape on one hand ethical, but also responsible AI habits at work to make the adoption much easier?
Yeah. So, these kind of topics for me are all interrelated. I think sometimes what we're dealing with is our leaders are also trying to catch up on this trend. But I think our leaders need to communicate what their plans are for AI to drive a mindset shift. Sometimes I think nobody likes surprises, especially when it feels like a bad surprise. So this communication from leadership needs to show that what they're doing is expected. It's formalized and it's specific. It's not just something that they, sort of guessed at. Like I said, I think I said this earlier, we still see where we have this tool and we're looking for a problem to solve. And I think this pushes the onus back on leadership to go beyond just like, we need to show value with AI, which is what we're seeing a lot of. They actually have to own what and where they actually think that they want to apply this and where they can get value. Once employees understand the expectations, they can actually have a plan for their own skills, but they can't do that when they're surprised. This also goes, I think most people who are not bad actors, they don't want to do something that's irresponsible or unethical. Sometimes they do it because they don't understand what the requirements are around ethical and responsible uses of AI. So if we're deliberate, if our leadership communicates where they want to apply it, and we actually have a programmatic way of dealing with it, and we align our enablement to our releases, then we can also train our employees on how to be responsible and ethical, not just expect them to we can't just expect them to figure it out all the time. I think even as data professionals, we have a hard time keeping up with all the new regulation that's coming out. So we can't expect every employee to do that on their own.
Yeah, so guidance is indeed important. And I'm very curious, what kind of tips do you have to help people to kick off a successful AI program? What's your experience that you want to share?
I think it goes back. Kicking off a successful AI program starts with alignment, right? We have to have alignment with the goals of the company, the organization, the funding. That alignment has to happen. I think right now it's still very new. And so we're not, I don't think we're not putting the rigor in place that we need to. And some of that comes under the covers, right? It comes with, what is the foundation that we're building AI on? Do we have the right data? Do we have the right governance in place? Do we have the right security? And a lot of that comes with people are, again, not being deliberate with how they apply AI. They have AI and they're trying to figure out how can they use it so they can tell everybody that they have AI.
Yeah, thank you. I love how you addressed the human side as well, and of course the leadership part. I loved your insights on both of the aspects, the cultural part as well. And thank you, Amy, for all the great insights, and for the audience. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time.